$1 million Ferrari dead on the side of the road. Its flashy red paint, usually a symbol of money and power, was now just making its owner, Marcus Thorne, look ridiculous. He stomped around it, his $5,000 suit a mess, his face twisted in rage. "What do you mean you can't figure it out?" he screamed into his phone. "It's a car! Your best people, with all their fancy computers, have been at it for 2 days and got nothing? You quoted me a full engine replacement. That's insane." He stabbed the end call button, and the silence that followed only seemed to make him angrier. That's when a man and a little girl walked by, holding hands. The man's clothes were faded and his hands were calloused from work, the exact opposite of Marcus's polished look. The little girl, who couldn't have been more than 7, stared at the car with huge eyes, then at the fuming millionaire. She tugged on her dad's sleeve and whispered, just loud enough for Marcus to hear, "My dad can fix it." Marcus heard her, all right. He spun around, a sneer plastered on his face. He looked the father up and down, taking in the worn-out jeans and simple t-shirt. Then he laughed, a loud, nasty sound. "Your dad?" he scoffed, waving a hand dismissively. "Honey, the best dealership in the country can't solve this. What's he gonna do? Tap it with a magic wand?" The father, David, didn't say a word. He wasn't offended, he was watching. He'd seen guys like Marcus before, men who think money is a superpower and that a person's worth is tied to their watch. For Marcus, that Ferrari wasn't just a car, it was his ego, and now that it was broken, he was personally insulted. He'd spent a fortune on so-called experts who left him stranded and feeling powerless. The little girl, Lily, hid behind her father's leg, scared by Marcus's yelling. But she still believed in her dad. She looked up at him with total faith, and that's the look that made David step forward. Marcus, just spoiling for a fight, saw his chance. "Tell you what," he announced with a cruel smile. "You want to play mechanic? Fine. If your poor dad here can actually fix this machine, a machine that has stumped 3 certified experts, I'll give you $10,000. Cash. But when he fails, you both get lost and stop wasting my time." It wasn't a real offer. It was a show, a way for him to humiliate this man in front of everyone. David glanced at the car, then at his daughter's hopeful face. He couldn't care less about the money, but he wasn't about to let some rich jerk crush his daughter's faith in him. He gave a slow nod. "We'll take a look." News of the crazy bet spread like wildfire through the small crowd that had started to gather. Everybody knew the story. The millionaire's supercar had been dead in the water for a month, towed from one high-end shop to the next with zero luck. Technicians with laptops and fancy gear had spent days on it, only to give up and suggest a 6-figure engine overhaul. And now, here comes David. His only tool? A small, beat-up canvas toolkit that looked like it was older than the car itself. He didn't have a computer. He didn't have a crew. He just had his hands and a lifetime of knowing how things work. Marcus stood there with his arms crossed, a smug grin on his face. He was already planning how he'd tell this story at his next dinner party, about the time some nobody thought he could outsmart Ferrari's best engineers. But David didn't even notice the audience. He moved with a quiet focus. He didn't go for the engine right away. Instead, he just walked slowly around the car, his hand hovering over the metal like he was listening to it. He knelt down, looked at the tires, and ran a hand along the door. He wasn't just seeing a bunch of parts. He was seeing the whole picture. Lily watched from the curb, her gaze proud and steady. For her, this was totally normal. Her dad could fix anything. A broken toy, a leaky pipe, the neighbor's lawnmower, it didn't matter. The price tag meant nothing to him. After his quiet walk around, David finally turned to Marcus. His voice was calm. When it stopped, did it sputter out or just die instantly? Marcus was thrown off by such a simple question. It just died. 1 second I was driving, the next, silence. David nodded. A flicker of understanding crossed his face. He popped the rear engine cover, revealing the gorgeous and completely useless engine. The crowd leaned in, waiting for him to dive into the mechanical maze, but he didn't. He barely even looked at the main engine. His eyes went straight to a small side panel, far away from all the action. The dealership mechanics, guided by their computers, would have ignored it completely. They were hunting for a giant catastrophic failure. David opened his worn toolkit and took out one simple tool, a multimeter. He clipped one end to the car's frame and started touching the other probe to different spots. He wasn't looking for $1 million problem. He was looking for a 10-cent mistake. He knew that the most complicated machines often break down for the simplest reasons. The diagnostic computers were programmed to find complex disasters, so they'd completely miss a basic short in a wire. He muttered, almost to himself, "They build these things with so many backup systems, but it all comes down to the source. If the power isn't flowing right, nothing else matters." And then, he found it. Tucked behind a heat shield was a tiny wiring connector. It looked like nothing, but David knew it was part of the battery isolation system, a safety feature. The wire leading to it was frayed, its coating rubbed off, and the connection was loose. It was the kind of thing that happens from engine vibrations over time, or from a lazy mechanic cutting corners on a previous job. This was a problem a computer would never find. It would just report total power loss, which made the other mechanics think the battery was dead, the alternator was shot, or the whole engine had seized. They were looking for a forest fire and missed the single match. Marcus watched, his smirk slowly melting away. "What is that?" "This is your problem," David said quietly. He didn't have a new part. He didn't need one. He just pulled a small roll of electrical tape and some pliers from his kit. With the focus of a surgeon, he cleaned the contact, tightened the connector until it clicked, and then carefully wrapped the frayed wire so it was safe and secure. The whole thing took maybe 5 minutes. He closed the side panel, then the main engine cover, the click echoing in the silence. He wiped his hands on a rag and looked at Marcus. "Try it now. If you believe true genius can pop up in the most unexpected places, do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button, because what happened next wasn't just about fixing a car. It was a lesson in humility that changed everything." Marcus just stared at David, then at the key in his hand. "This can't be real," he thought. "It's impossible. My team of experts, with all their resources, failed. And this guy with a roll of tape thinks he solved it? It had to be a joke." Scoffing, he slid into the driver's seat, ready to prove him wrong. He put the key in the ignition, expecting that same dead silence he'd been hearing for weeks. He turned it. The Ferrari didn't just start. It exploded to life with a roar so loud it shook the air. This wasn't the sound of a patched-up engine, it was the sound of a perfect one. A beast roaring back to life. The crowd gasped, then erupted into applause. Marcus was frozen. His hands were clamped to the steering wheel. That smug, arrogant mask he always wore, it was gone, replaced by pure, unfiltered shock. He revved the engine, listening to its perfect hum. It was real. Slowly, he shut the car off and got out, moving like he was in a dream. He walked over to David, who was holding his daughter's hand again. The millionaire looked at the poor dad's simple, calloused hands, the hands that had just solved a problem his money couldn't. He looked at the worn-out tools. Then he looked into David's calm, steady eyes. All the arrogance had vanished, replaced by a deep, humbling shame. "How?" Marcus whispered. "How did you know?" "You look for the simplest solution first," David replied gently. "Most people forget to." The change in Marcus was instant. Standing there on the side of the road, stripped of all his pride, he saw it clearly. He saw how his money had blinded him, making him look down on anyone he thought was lesser. He reached into his jacket, pulled out his wallet, and fumbled with the $10,000 he'd promised. He held it out to David. "Here, you earned it. You more than earned it." David looked at the cash, then just shook his head. "That's not necessary. Seeing my daughter smile like that is all the payment I need." But Marcus pushed the money into David's hand. "Please. This isn't for the job, it's an apology. I was arrogant, and I was wrong." He paused, a new idea clicking into place. "I invest in talent, and you, sir, are the most talented person I've ever met." He took out a business card. "I'm starting a new automotive innovation division. I need someone to lead it, someone who thinks differently, who sees what the so-called experts miss. I'm not offering you a job as a mechanic. I'm offering you the chance to run the whole department. You can name your salary. You'll answer only to me." David was speechless. He looked at the card, then at Lily, who was beaming with pride. This wasn't just a job. It was a future. A chance to give his daughter a life he'd only ever dreamed of. This time he didn't hesitate. He took the card. I accept. That day, a cocky millionaire didn't just get his Ferrari fixed. He got a long overdue lesson in humility. He learned that a person's worth isn't measured by their bank account or the car they drive, but by their skill, their character, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing what you're doing. For David and Lily, life was about to change forever, not because of some lucky break, but because a father knew how to fix what was broken, both in the car and in the man who owned it. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who needs a reminder that we all have a hidden genius just waiting to be discovered.